This was actually a gift from our pal Bacon Beer Can. My birthday. So this might be nice to look at. The paper is almost like the texture of watercolor paper, so that's really nice. And there's a look at the. Let's actually move this aside so we can better view the book. I'm too lazy to change stream name to like art or anything, but we'll do that next time. And let's take a look at this, guys. I love that game. Hero Pet, yeah, it's a great game. I didn't finish Valkyria Chronicles 4, but I should get back to it someday. Art books. Wish we had Spirit Halloween here. Yeah, it's so fun. Did you know there's a Spirit Halloween movie? There's like a Spirit Halloween horror movie or something. Yeah, so I don't plan on like looking over the entire book here. You know, of course we want to encourage like, you know, the art book industry. So let's just kind of go over it just a wee bit. And of course this is really crisp, so I don't want to like bend the pages or anything. For manga, illustrations done for the Naussica manga. Illustrations done since Naussica of the Valley of the Wind manga began running in monthly animage in February 1982. Collected in order of appearance. Each illustration is accompanied by comments from Miyazaki. Okay, so let's read the very first one here. But I don't want to read everything, right? Hayao Miyazaki comments, I drew this picture while I was working for a studio called Telecom. I didn't have any work in animation for a while, so I started drawing Nausica in Animage, but almost immediately after it I got a job doing Sherlock Hound, yep. I despise people who earn money on the side in addition to their main occupation. I was wondering when we were gonna get to the grumpy ass Miyazaki that we all know and love. I was like, you know, is this sort of early in his career, so he was gonna be like, does he have a more positive outlook? No. It's like the third sentence in this book. He's already grumpy. I despise people who earn money on the side in addition to their main occupation, yet I was forced to do exactly that. Serializing the manga while reporting for duty at the studio, a very disassociative state of affairs. It was standard operating practice at Telecom to work till after midnight, but I used to sneak out around 11, worried that people would notice me leaving early and drive home, switching my brain over to Nausica. Then I would sit at my desk in the middle of the night, desperately drawing manga pages and cursing. Then in the morning I would put my brain back on Sherlock Hound as I drove to the studio. I did this every day while I was working at the studio. I behaved as if I'd never heard of Nausica. If I saw a copy of Animage lying around, I would flee the room. He's always mad. He mad. Like this picture, every illustration that appeared on the magazine's cover still embarrasses me to death for all kinds of reasons. Embarrasses? This is amazing. Anyways. But the primary purpose of a color illustration is to attract the reader's attention. I never once had any intention of earning a living doing that kind of work, but I found myself forced to produce that kind of work regardless. Because of this, I feel a sort of submissive shame towards those pictures. He's a sub. Well, so here, let's take a little better look at this. And if you look very closely at the cross-hatching style in this large skull here, based, it's very reminiscent of Mobius, Jean-Gérard Mobius from France, a contemporary of his. Mobius died, I want to say like 5-6 years ago, but they were very, I don't want to say very close, but they respected each other, so much so that they actually had a joint art gallery show in France, Hayao Miyazaki and Mobius, And the gallery itself was amazing. The way that they had displayed their work together was just so beautifully arranged. And you can definitely see that influence, this French influence in his manga style here. Miyazaki in later years would kind of go into a more watercolor. This is still watercolor, I believe. Yeah, it says here watercolor. This is still watercolor, but he would kind of lean more into the watercolors and less having that kind of comic outline hatching style as years would go on. But yeah, this is 1982. And yeah, we're just going to kind of go through this for a little bit, guys. Just kind of wind things down today. Fundamentally, I don't enjoy drawing pictures that scream. This guy is so grumpy. I'm a cover, yes, or please buy this book. When I draw that kind of picture, I feel a certain sense of servile shame. What the fuck? I wish I could draw them better, but it's always difficult for me. My feelings on this still haven't changed at all. I drew the manga without considering the colors at all, so when I have to draw cover illustrations in color, I don't know what to do. But I did like the way the low quality paper of the magazine cover made the coloring look sort of antique. That's a very interesting thing to take into account, because Reginald, I can't do Reginald on demand. Reginald is a very hard voice to do, in my opinion. Lovely guy. Yeah, amazing stuff. Oh look, maps. I love maps. I might be a weird guy, but I like maps. You know, like in Game of Thrones or Lord of the Rings, I love having to like read a book about the travels of Frodo and then moving back to like the first 2 pages and checking out the maps. I drew this map during serialization to make sure I was consistent with the locations of the countries and places that appeared within Naussica of the Valley of the Wind. Okay, here I'll try Reginald for you, Arch here. The Animage editors asked me to draw this. I didn't want to, so I fought them for a while, but eventually I lost and had to draw it. The bigger the drawing, the more time it takes, and so I drew it only 1.1 times as large as it would appear. There you go. That's why it's so small. He just drew it slightly bigger than necessary. I drew this for a calendar included inside of an issue of Animage. I wouldn't think of anything to draw, but my editor simply refused to go home. Eventually I caved and drew this, grumbling about not having enough time. More grumpiness. You gotta love this Miyazaki guy. What a grumpy fellow. It really, maps are hard to draw, yeah. Have you drawn maps like in a professional setting, Arch? I almost feel like you possibly may have. But here, where's that map? Yeah, this is a very simple map, mind you, this one, but very cool. Because it just helps you sort of situate the story and get a sense of like, it helps you build a story more, I think. Look, there's an acid lake, very Dark Souls, Sea of Corruption. It's very Dark Soulsian. Look, and now he's talking about being forced to draw this one. He's saying that he hates drawing covers. Oh my god. Okay, I was waiting for the grumpiness. The cape is much too cheap looking for her? I don't know, it looks good. Not the design so much, but the fabric? I can't really get a sense of the fabric in this illustration. But I couldn't seem to get it right. I've been drawing a lot of Naussica, so I thought it was time for me to change of pace and draw Kushana. Beautiful stuff. I don't even remember this one. Look what it says here, guys. I don't even remember this one. You know what? He was asked to say things about the artwork, and he totally didn't want to do this. He totally didn't want to. Look, I remember muttering to myself, another cover? Holy shit, this guy, you know, it's a joke. See comment on page 34. I remember muttering to myself, another cover. Look, he's just complaining again. It's the same complaint, so he's just like, I don't even want to say it all over again. Just read page 34 where I complained before. Just a page ago. Yeah, I know it's a meme that he's really grumpy, but I mean, this is almost like unbelievably grumpy. All right, let's just keep going, guys. Let's kind of speed things up. Like I said, I want to go through every single image. Maybe we'll kind of find some stuff that I like personally. I mean, like, for example, I love this, you know? Very interesting insights into it. When he's not complaining, it's really interesting what he has to say about the art. Let's try and find some actual insight rather than just whining about shit. I drew this as I was starting to figure out what Naussica was going to have to do, which is probably why I liked it so much. Okay, he's enjoying it. At the time, I had no idea how the story would actually turn out, but I had a very strong feeling that this was where the story was headed. I just knew there would come a time when the baggage of everything she was carrying would prevent her from flying happily through the air and force her to trudge along the surface. Cool. Poor editors, I know. The great Miyazaki, oh man, just imagine all the wonderful insights he'll have about his artwork. See comments about page 48. Look, see, he's just like, I don't wanna. Look, see comment about page 48. All right, fuck. What's page 48? One of 7 pictures I was asked to do for a calendar. I had to make them all look different, and I remember having a lot of trouble with this. The pictures of the worm handlers or the god warrior were things I was pretty sure were going to happen, but the story wasn't finished yet at all. The picture of the god warrior in particular is a little different from what actually ended up happening. One of these, on 56 to 57, is a different size from the others because I was trying to save time by drawing at half the size. That's some real shit, you know, saving time, trying to get things done on time as an artist. That's real. That's some real shit, guys. It's just trying to get it done. Oh my god, it keeps on going. See page 48. See page 48. He's not a lazy man. That's the thing. When you see him being like, look, yo, page 48, just go back to page 48. It's not like he's lazy, because he's incredibly productive, this Hayao Miyazaki guy. In fact, he keeps on postponing his retirement. Every movie he's like, I'm done, I'm retiring, I'm too old, that's it, I'm done, I hate it, I don't want to make movies anymore. And then as soon as like he's done, he's like, actually, I got another movie. Got another one. I don't remember what I drew for this. Ooh, this is a nice map. Hey now, this is a really cool one. It looks like he has these like arrows pointing to like where the conflicts were coming from and originating. Sea of Thirst. This is where many Twitch chatters originate from. The Sea of Thirst. Straight to the point. Damn it, another cover. Poor editors, yeah, true. Alright. A lot of like, you know, portraits of Naussica. Very straight on. This is very similar look. Huh? I drew this during serialization for the cover of a collected edition. It's practically the same. So I don't know if he used like a light box. My homeland? Arch. My homeland, take me home. Ooh, I like this one a lot. What do you guys think? Do you think he's gonna hate this one, or is he gonna like it? I like this one a lot. Do you think he's gonna hate it? It's much easier to draw pictures that are taking place within the story. I drew this at a smaller size than the other manga covers because I thought it would work enlarged. I'm not an illustrator, and I've never cared if my lines turn out looking sharp or not. I tend to want my lines to vanish completely. Yeah, and that's an interesting point because later on, as I said, the lines are almost completely gone in his later works, and we only really see the watercolor. The shape and the form is defined by watercolor. It's gonna poop on it. Yeah, he didn't really poop on it. This is like the brilliant thing about this book here is that you're really getting a sense of the world building, aside from getting a look at the inner psyche of a disgruntled man. You get a sense of like the world building, which is all here, and that's something that, like, you know, I'm sure many of you out there that have, you know, contemplated telling a story, whether it be a comic or an anime, manga or whatever, you may have thought about the world and the stories and the comics and everything. But something like this is very important in terms of getting that sense of the details of the world down. So that's really cool. We have like the spores, a fruit tree that is actually more like a mold or a fungus. That's how how it seems to me right here. The growth of the Mushigoyashi. Spores are released from the flowers of fruit trees during germination. Fungal network spreads across the surface of the earth. Fully grown fungal network. A bud. Oh yeah, because we have to read it this way, right? From right to left. A bud, moment of germination, young tree branching, and then it becomes this full tree. But yeah, it's like it's not like a normal tree. Instead, it's more of like a fungal tree. I knew as I was drawing that Naussica would never pose like this. There are a lot of pieces I drew despite such contradictions. He's a little thirsty. He was coming from the sea of thirst here. The shapes here, you know, they look a little phallic, not gonna lie. Yeah, beautiful stuff here. And yeah, all these details, love this stuff. Amazing. Yeah, as he would say that, you know, he's not really someone that is focused on the line work and he'd rather have it disappear, but he's so good at it. And this is a very key image in Naussica right here. And Sophia's lurking, please enjoy your lurk. Let's kind of speed things along a little bit more, guys. Got some beautiful line work. This is like more my bag, to be honest. We were talking about this on Discord, how like with Vanilla about line work, and I love line work. It's something that I'm trying to like kind of work outside of. Try and work outside of line work, or think about it less and think about more the colors and the shapes. And so what we're seeing here is more like what we would see more from Miyazaki's work, because this is more intended as concept art rather than like an illustration, which is like the means to an end, or rather an illustration is the end product. It's the thing that the viewer is going to see, whereas stuff like this concept artwork is intended to be a part of the process, and then the end product, of course, is the movie itself, the film. And so you get the impression that it's much more loose. It's much more loose here because he knows he doesn't have to think about this in terms of being a very slick final product. But in a strange way, this ends up feeling more like Miyazaki himself. This is more true to Hayao Miyazaki's like art, so to speak. I want to try to make my line work disappear too. This guy though. So I'm not very good at this kind of thing, like coming up with environments, and this is something that I would love to study. I'm not good at it, but I like it a lot, and I like to do it. But coming up with like the, you know, having this sense of architecture, as you can see here. It's a beautiful look at the architecture. I love that. And obviously this is a very fantastic kind of fantasy-like environment. But there's he's thought about it. All the notes you can see here is someone really thinking about it in a practical sense. There's a bridge to the town, a gunship dock, a reservoir, a main hall, the rooms for certain characters, male tower, female tower. Like, he's thought about all that, and I think that is fascinating. Image boards of the opening. Pictures with a, I don't know what that symbol is, next to them were drawn as part of the plants but did not end up being used in the movie. I see. Oh, okay. I see. Sorry for the glare, guys. Realizing that there's a bit of glare, but it is getting darker. So we're having to deal with like the light a bit more. Very nice. Look at all that. Legendary Grumpy Man. So here's like a lot of pathetic father and princess. There's like an extended conversation with Miyazaki here, where I'm sure he's just such a pleasant person to talk to, I'm sure. The road to Princess Mononoke, that's an interesting thing. Let's read that. When I create characters, the more cheerful, bright, and open a person is, the more I tend to load them up with delicate complexes or other negative traits. Sometimes that makes them sidekicks, sometimes that makes them villains. A while ago, I was working on a story that never got published about a pig in a tank. At the time... Oh, you're heading home before stream ends, Arch. Okay, no problem. Thank you for stopping by. At the time, the young man who was going to direct the project said, "I can't understand why the pig would kidnap a pretty girl, but not take advantage of her. I didn't see the point in making a pig into a realistic villain or a character. I thought that I didn't want to do a story about someone like that kidnapping another person. The person they kidnap must be treated like a precious commodity. A villain more after the heart than the body. If he wanted a woman, all he needed was money. I must prefer villains who believe that's not what I'm really after. I imagine real villains would never talk like that, but that doesn't change my opinion. For example, Count Cagliostro." Where do we get to the Mononoke part? The villains are parts of me. Oh shit. Villains are all parts of me? This is a key lore drop. For years I've been wondering what it would be like if all those negative elements were forced into the main character's side. I can understand a character with that kind of anger, but it was extremely challenging to figure out what shape that story would take. When I found myself in a situation where I had to make a film of Princess Mononoke, I decided it was time to do that. I didn't try to make any of the characters happy. The main character, Ashitaka, is not much like any characters I've done before, but I think he's inside me far longer than those cheery, happy boys. Those cheery, happy boys. But you know, he's saying that the main character is Ashitaka. I would disagree. The main character is Princess Mononoke. So that's kind of interesting. I don't know. I don't know if that's something that was lost in translation there. Period drama as motif. The drawings Miyazaki accumulated between 1980 and 1982 formed the basis of all his work, from Nausica of the Valley of the Wind to Princess Mononoke. Looking at these, we can see the period drama Miyazaki himself describes as his starting point, combined with fragments of other motifs, adding more and more science fiction elements as it approaches the world of Nausica. Of course they are, says Mecha Girl Vanilla. Yeah, that's a really interesting point. We have the... Man, I just love these sketches. They're so cool. Look at all the personality here that we're seeing in the expressions of the characters. And you just get a sense of, like, what's this guy's story? What's this guy's story? What are their stories? I just love the expressions. That's something that I need to work on, too. I feel like I don't really think about the expressions of the characters I draw. I kind of just draw them in, like, fairly neutral faces. This is an awesome image. It's sort of like a Buddha, that the face is completely concave. The face is all caved in and absent. It's a very striking image, and again, it's the sort of thing you think to yourself, like, what's the story? We have someone on a horse that's going by it. You just think, like, what's the story behind that? That could be a whole thing, could be a whole movie. And then Miyazaki's just, you know, sketching this shit, and then, you know, off to the next drawing. You know, it's pretty amazing to think about. These are all just like these incidental things that he has drawn. That's part of a larger process to finally hone in on something like Nausica or Princess Mononoke. But it's just so fascinating in and of itself. Like, this could have been a really cool video game or something. But all we have is just this image. It's not the point. This is a very typical looking dragon. You don't really see that in Miyazaki's work. It's like a very kind of typical looking Western style dragon, I would say. Very cool. Yeah, you know, as inspirational and as awesome as Hayao Miyazaki's art is and his movies are, I try not to watch them too often. Like, if I am super desperate for a shot of creativity, for a shot of inspiration, I'll watch one. But like, I feel like it's just such a powerful, concentrated blast of inspiration and creativity that it can kind of like mentally like occupy my thoughts, and then that's all I can think about. That's all I want to draw. That's all I want to do is do stuff like that. And instead, you know, it's kind of nice to just get the impression of it. Nowadays, like, watch it, of course, watch the stuff. But I'm not the sort of person that's going to like really study it per se. Like, you know what I mean? As much as I'm looking at it now. But this is a nice way to appreciate things. It's really nice to appreciate this book and look at it with all of you guys. Here, Pat, I have you the video on someone making Howl's Moving Castle from junk. I think I've seen that. I've seen the video, at least parts of it, but I haven't watched the whole thing. But that's amazing. Ah, sell art. Oh, there's not much on that. I thought there would be more on the cell art. Cells drawn by Miyazaki himself for magazine covers. In addition to the finished colored cell, we've included the rough sketch, the final sketch, and the cleaned up versions. The cell below was the cover of Animage in 1984. The one to the right was the cover of Animage February 1984. Okay, cool. So when you're drawing something for like cell art, you need to really keep it clean. When you look at something like the watercolors, there's a lot of variations within like a single, you know, this is like a very dark purple here, but there's a lot of variation even within inside of that. But when you look at like cell art, you know, it has to be very solid. Illustrated Apology Collection, interesting. The illustration used on the first original poster promoting the movie, Miyazaki drew this on the rough created by the designer Masano Karu, who also designed this volume. Monthly Animage serialization history, that's interesting. And that is it. Watercolor impressions from Hayao Miyazaki. That is it, guys. Nice to look over this with you all. I've looked at this, but not super in depth, and I would like to look at it more in depth now that I've kind of gone through it. We should do this more. If you guys like it, let me know. If you guys like looking at art books, it's kind of nice to just wind things down.